Good morning, students. Welcome to this video lecture. So, in the previous lecture, I have introduced to you briefly about uh, steel structures. What are the properties of steel structures? And then we have discussed about the units or the topics on which steel structures design will be confined. So, today we are going to uh, start with the advantages of steel structures, why we use steel structures, and a little bit of introduction to plastic analysis and design. Okay. So now, what are the advantages of steel as a structural material? So first is the steel members have very high strength per unit weight. So a steel member of a small section has little self weight and is able to resist heavy loads. So this is one of the most important criteria for choosing steel over other material. The weight, the strength per unit weight is very high. That means for a very little self weight, it has got a very high strength. Okay, whether it is tensile strength, whether it is compressive strength, whether it is flexural strength. If you compare all the strengths, shear, torsion, bending or flexure or axial loads, whether compression, tension, in every kind of stresses or flexure, it is way more advantageous. It can carry heavy loads for a small self weight. So, and thus it is able to resist the heavy loads. Second is steel being a ductile material, it does not fail suddenly, but gives visible evidence of impending failure by large deflection. This is another important criteria, that it's a ductile material. Steel is much more ductile than concrete, can be drawn into longer lengths. Since it can be drawn into longer lengths, deformations can be uh, reduced, because deformation is inversely proportional to the length. If the length is more, the deformation will be less. Deformation means deflection here. So by the time it deflects, it gives large deflection, it will give you evidence, visible evidence. Like if concrete fails, it will fail suddenly. Or for steel to reach that stage of failure, it will give you some time to notice, okay, the evidence of failure. Third point is steel structures are tough. The toughness is very high. It is very hard and tough compared to concrete and other materials. They have both strength and ductility and durability. Okay, ductility, strength, durability. Durability means longevity. It ensures it will be for its lifespan will be more. Okay, if not corroded. So the steel members are subjected to large deformation during fabrication and erection, will not fracture. During its fabrication, fabrication means when the steel structures are made in the workshops, in the factories, that is the fabrication stage. And erection. Erection using connections, using bolts, rivets, or welding, when the members are joined. So uh, during this stage, it will not lead to fracture, as it has got very high yield strength. And uh, by the time it reaches its plastic stage, it will have higher uh, plastic limit. So being light, steel members can be transported and handled conveniently. So this is another important. So it is, since its self weight is less per unit area, its self weight is less compared to other members. So it can be easily handled and it can be transported to different places, right? So properly maintained steel structures have longer life. Properly maintained means here maintenance specifies to corrosion. If the steel structures are not corroded, they are properly maintained, painted, so they will not lead to corrosion. It will have more life. The property of steel also do not change with time. Okay, they are time independent. They can be erected at a faster rate. Concrete takes longer time. Concrete, if you cast the concrete, it will take some time to set, and then you need to de-shutter it after some time, and depending on the span of the structure. So but with steel it doesn't occur like that. So it can be erected at a faster rate. Also, steel has the highest scrap value among all materials. Scrap value means if the steel is wasted, if the steel is not in use, so it can be resold reselling value of steel as a material is much higher. Okay. So now we'll see some of the types of steel members that are being used in steel structural design. Okay, before that, you have to understand very clearly here that for steel structural design, you need to have two things with you. First important thing is IS 800-2007 limited method. So like concrete, you had IS 456-2000, that was the IS code for concrete. For steel, you have to have IS 800-2007 limited method, LSM method, that code for steel structures. Okay. Second would be steel tables. So steel tables consist of a book consists of pages which carries various steel sections having different properties. So we have to refer to that book while designing, while choosing a section. So these two things are very important. Apart from that, you need IS 875 for load, and part 3 and part 4 for wind and seismic analysis also. So these are some of the sections that are being used. First is the I section. This is the most commonly used section. This is used in columns, in compression members, as well as in beams, designing of beams or girders. So this is the flange. Flange has a thickness of TF. This is the web, and the web has a thickness of TW. And this is the lower flange. This is I section. This is, and next is these are all rolled section. That is, these are all made and fabricated in factories and workshop. So these are already made. Okay, these are taken directly to the site for erection. These are rolled section. Second is the C section or the channel section. Again, it has two flanges and one wave. Two flanges connected to one wave. Thickness of the flange is TF, thickness of the wave is TW. So this is C section or channel section. Okay. B is the breadth of the width of the flange. Okay. And this is another thing, angle section. These are angle section or light sections. These are for light steel structures. We refer we generally refer to angle sections. So this is one leg of the angle. This is another leg. Now this is an equal angle. Okay. This is an equal angle where both the legs are of the same length. Now, sometimes you might have unequal angles where both the legs will be of different lengths. Okay, and this is the thickness. So angle will be referred as ISA 30 by 100 by 100 by 10. That means 100 is the measurement of one leg in one direction, 100 is the measurement of one leg in other direction, and T is the, and 5 or 10 is the thickness of the leg, both the legs. Okay. Sometimes you have 130 by 90 by 10. That means one leg unequal angle, one leg is 130, one leg is 100, and the thickness is 10. Like this. And this is the T section. So this T section is also sometimes used. So this will be IS MB, IS LB, IS HB. LB is low beam, that is low self weight. Okay. Now this classification of IS section will be by depth for beams. For I section, it will be by beam. So what is the depth of the web? The depth of the web will give you the suppose it is ISLB 200. That means the depth of the web will be 200 millimeter. Okay. If it is ISLB 250, so it will be 250 mm. Okay. So refer to that steel table, go to ISLB 250, you can find all the properties. And then you can select the section. Okay, you can write all the properties and then you can do the design part. Similarly, for channel sections also, sometimes they are used in beams, in purlins of roof trusses, various other sections. When you select a C section, channel section, also the classification of channel section will be according to the depth of the web. Again, like the I section. So ISMC, it will be ISLC, ISMC. So generally it is ISMC with medium. So L, M, and H refers to the loading, okay, or the self weight. If for lightweight, you take L sections. For medium weight, take M sections. For heavy loads, take H. Okay, so like columns, when you take I section in columns, you have to use ISHB. Similarly, for legs of the steel structures, leg of these columns, if you are using one angle, only one angle you are using in a structure, then it is one ISA. IS means Indian Standard. A refers to angle. Then you write the specification, that is 100 by 100 by thickness. Okay, that will give you the nomenclature for angle. So this is how angles are. This ISNT, ISMT for T section, it is again done by depth of the wave. So T sections are generally not rarely used. These are the three most common sections that you will be using in design of steel structures: angles, I sections, and channels, and also plates. So you have plates and flat bars. So plates are nothing. You will have a rectangular section like IS, okay, plate 560 by 50 or 500 by 10, like that. So one side will have longer length and T will be the thickness. These are the hollow sections. So you have square hollow section, rectangular hollow section, B and D, having thickness, some thickness T, and circular hollow section, tubular section. Circular hollow sections are also called as tubular sections. So these are used in the railings in staircases. This will be used. Okay, so these are some of the sections classification that. Now there are two types of structure that are being used here. Some of them will be discussed here. Structural standard structural steel, it's 410 A, B, C. So Fe 410 refers to ultimate tensile strength is 410. Okay, this is the ultimate tensile strength given by Fu. Yield strength is 250. So this is generally used. And that is micro alloyed medium or high strength steel. So this is Fe 440, 540, 490, and 590 B. Okay, again this will be having as per the number before A or B. If it is 440, ultimate tensile strength will be 440. If it is 510, it will be 500. So depending on that various nomenclature, you will have different yield strength. Okay, if you are using Fe410, Fe410 is the most commonly used steel for design of steel structures. So you take it for granted that the ultimate tensile strength will be 410 megapascal and the yield strength of Fe410 will be 250 Newton per millimeter square. So these values you just remember while taking into consideration for steel structural design. Now, let us come to the stress strain curve of structural steel. So this is stress strain curve for mild steel. Okay, this is for mild steel. So what we do here, first we have to, this is very, very important. You have to understand the, this is the basic for plastic analysis design. Okay, if you don't understand this, it will be difficult for you. So now this axis shows the stress, this axis will show the strain. So for initially, the stress and strain will go in a linear way up to point A. So the strain produced is proportional to stress and it obeys Hooke's law. Okay. So point A represents the limit of proportionality and beyond which the linear variation will cease to occur. So now after point A, we reach point B. So point B represents the elastic limit or the maximum stress up to which the specimen regains its original strength. So it can regain its original elasticity is there up to B. So till B, this is proportionality limit, this is elastic limit. Okay, till B, the elastic limit or Hooke's law will occur. That is stress will be proportional to strain. So now after point C, after point B, you come to point C. So point C, the nonlinear part of the curve will start. Okay. So point C, it represents the upper yield point at which there is definite increase in strain without any further increase in strain. So while it reaches the point C, when it reaches point C, then even if you increase the even if you don't increase the stress, strain will start increasing. So there will be variation in strain even if you don't increase the stress. So there is definite increase in strain without any further increase in stress. So if this occurs, then this is the starting of yielding. So point C your yielding of the material will start. Okay, so since this is the starting point, it is called as upper yield point. So downward point is C dash. So C dash is the lower yield point. So yielding takes place in two parts, upper yield point and lower yielding point. So in C dash, now the stress drops abruptly from the upper yield to the lower yield C dash, and the strain increases at constant stress up to point D. So again, this will decrease. Decreasing means your stress will be decreasing, but the strain will be increasing. So this is reverse in the yielding. When yielding starts increasing, when more and more yielding starts, initially it reaches the yielding point, more and more fibers of the material will start yielding, and then it reaches the lower yield point, means your stress will decrease. See from this graph, it is falling down. So the stress will fall down and the strain will be increasing. So it reaches point C dash, which is lower yield point. From C to D, again it is your stress is constant. Stress does not increase or decrease, but strain will be increasing. Okay, so continuously, if you see this, the strain will be increasing. Once it crosses this thing, your elastic limit, strain will be increasing. It will go on increasing. Now at point D, beyond point D, the point B, this portion represents a pure plastic flow. So from point C dash, your plastic limit will start. So before C dash, before this yielding, it was elastic state. Now as it reaches C dash, your plastic stage of the material will start. Okay, it will start plastic flow of the material. Okay, plastic flow means your strain will keep on increasing without increasing stress. So it has reached that point. Okay, so now from C dash to this portion, entire thing will be in plastic zone. Now beyond D, the strain increases further with increase of stress, and the material is said to be in strain hardening range. So it is in strain hardening range. C to D dash, it is strain hardening. That means stress is constant, but strain keep on increasing. The elongation in the material will go on increasing. Okay. Now E represents the point of maximum stress corresponding. Now this point, now again, stress is increasing. After this point D, stress is increasing, strain is increasing. It reaches a peak value, which is called as E. This is the ultimate load. This is the ultimate load for which ultimate tensile strength for the material, Fu. Okay, so this is in plastic state. Ultimate tensile strength in plastic state, this is Fu. For Fe 410, this point it represents 410 Newton per millimeter square. Now again, if you increase, this will start falling down. Okay, stress will start to fall, but strain will keep on increasing, and at point F it will break. So this is the breaking point. So this entire thing is explained in the stress strain curve. So this is very important to understand how the elastic and the plastic zone exist in strain. Now what happens here? This is a very curvilinear kind of a curve. So we have, what they have done is, for considerations, they have idealized the curve. Means whatever non-linearity was there, they have converted the non-linearity into linear part. See, so everything is up to here. It was linear, then it is non-linear, then again it is linear. Okay, so this is idealized curve. This is not the real curve. The real curve is this one, but they have idealized, they have generalized the curve into combination of elastic and plastic parts. Okay, so see from here it is increasing. Okay, this will be Fu, and then up to here it is elastic limit, then up to here it is elastic limit, then it is plastic. So they have done this elastic and plastic combination of this, and then from here it is strain hardening. So this portion is plastic state and this portion is strain hardening. Strain hardening will start. Again, this has also been generalized. This has also been simplified. So these two graphs are nothing but simplified portion of. Means non-linearity is being simplified into linear curves. Okay. So they can elastic, plastic. So combination of this. This is the final stage. So this represents the complete stress strain curve of structural steel. Okay. So this needs to be understood here. This is elasticity, idealized curve. This is plasticity. Okay. Now, bending of beam. So this you have to understand, bending of beam, how bending of beam occurs. So this is the axis. Now it is assumed that the stress strain relation for the beam in an ideoelastic plastic stress strain curve, it is shown here in this figure. Okay. Now the beam is assumed to be bending. There is no only pure bending, only pure moment is occurring here. No axial stress or axial force is here. So first what occurs is, this is the elastic stage. That means before yielding. Yield point is not reached here. So this stress is less than the yield stress. So when it is raised as the yield stress, this part will be like this, linear. Okay. This stress, this is this thing, stress curve, your stress will be linear. That means at the extreme fiber, it will be maximum. At the neutral axis, it will be minimum. Linear variation. Okay. Before the yielding stage. At the yielding stage, see here, at this yielding stage, again, somewhat bending is there in the curve, somewhat, little bit when it reaches the yielding stage. That is, moment is yielding moment. Okay, this moment is less than yielding moment. When this moment becomes equal to yielding moment, your stress will reach the yield stress Fy. Both the extreme fibers will reach the yield stress Fy. Now, still it is linear. Once it crosses the yielding moment and it lies somewhere between the plastic moment, yielding moment and plastic moment in between, then what happens is the extreme fiber will reach, extreme fiber has reached the plastic stage. Okay. Extreme fiber has already reached the plastic stage, but the other fibers are still in the elastic stage. So it is combination of elastic plastic. That means this much portion, whatever is drawn in this black shaded portion, this has already yielded and it is in the plastic state. And this portion, the triangular portion, it is still yielding and it is in the elastic state. So combination of elasto-plasto. Okay. And now after it reaches the plastic moment, MP, yielding moment it has crossed, now it has reached the plastic moment, entire section will be plastic. That means entire stress will be fully developed plastic. Stress, it has reached the entire plastic stress and full section will resist. That means entire section of this beam cross section has reached the plastic stage. There is no yielding. Whatever has yielded has already gone into the plastic stage. So this is the development in stages of full plasticity of a beam section. How a beam section is, how the yielding stage starts, how the plastic stage is, this is being explained. So you have to understand this very clearly to understand what is plasticity, what is plastic hinge and all that. Okay. The next part here is to understand is the plastic hinge. Okay. Now a plastic hinge is a bone of although hinges do not actually form, it can be seen that large changes of slope occur over small lengths of members at positions of maximum moments. Okay. So suppose for example, this is a rectangular beam. Okay, this section is rectangular, width is B and depth is D. So this is your rectangular beam. Now this is the longitudinal section of the beam. Now load is acting at the center of the beam. So definitely the bending moment will be maximum at the center. So the maximum bending moment here, the plastic moments will be formed initially here. Okay. So the area where there is the maximum moments or the points of maximum moments. Okay. Those will start yielding first. So at the center of the beam, these fibers will start yielding. Here yielding has not started. First yielding will start in the center because the maximum moment is here. Understood? So now this much area is the hinge. Okay, hinge means you know already what is hinge. You have studied in structural analysis and theory of structures. Hinge is where moment will be released. Okay, rotation will be there. So here it will be fibers will rotate, start rotating about this point, these fibers. So a kind of, in reality, there is no hinge. Okay, this is just an assumption. You have to understand this. This is just an assumption that a hinge is formed. If the hinge is formed, then there will be rotation. So plastic moment will induce rotation in the fibers. Okay, so this you have to understand like this. So this is the area of this hinge, plastic hinge, that is formed. So because at the center moment will be more, plastic moment will be formed here. First CMP, plastic moment is formed here. And as we go away from the center, here yielding will start. But the first yielding will start here in the center itself. Okay. So this length up to up to this much length is the area of the yielding first, and plastic moment has formed. So this length is called the length of plastic hinge. That you have to determine. What is the length of the plastic hinge? Okay. So now if we draw the moment diagram for this beam, okay. So here it will initially it will my. This is m, some threshold, some base value m. Then at the center it will reach plastic moment first. And here at this point, if you draw at this point, this is still yielding moment. So this is also yielding moment. This is also, but at the center it is plastic moment. Okay. So now hinge length, how to find the hinge length? Now consider a simply supported rectangular beam subjected to gradually increasing concentrated load at the center. Now plastic hinge will be formed at the center. So plastic moment will be WL by 4. You know this MP. MP is plastic moment. WL, what is the moment at the center? WL by 4. Reaction will be WL by 2. WL by 2 into WL by 2 will be WL by 4. So here load is P. So PL by 4. So My is Fy into ZE. You know this formula? Moment is bending stress into section modulus is, this you have learned in strength of material, bending of beams equation, bending equation. So Fy is ZE by Fy into ZE. So Fy is the yield stress into BD. ZE is what? BD square by 1 by 6 BD square. So BD square. 1 by 6, just keep this as 4 and BD square by 4. Okay. So 2 by 3, just playing with these numbers. 2 by 3 Fy BD square by 4. Okay. So 2 by 3 Fy, and let us keep BD square by 4 as ZP, plastic section modulus. So this is elastic section modulus. This is plastic section modulus. Okay. So both are different. Elastic section modulus is the section modulus of the beam in the elastic stage. Plastic section modulus is the plastic section modulus of the beam in the plastic stage. So this is 2 by 3 into MP. Correct? So now, if you see this thing, okay, if you draw this line, okay, so this line, if you draw, it's a triangle. This triangle is from similar triangle. MP by what is this length? L by 2 will be equal to My by what is this length? This length will be L by 2 minus X by 2. Okay, so this is what it is written here. MP by L by 2 will be equal to My by L by 2 minus X by 2. So if you simplify this equation, L minus X into MP will be L into My. L minus X MP equal to My is what? From this equation, you know, My is yielding moment will be 2/3 of plastic moment for a rectangular beam carrying load at the center. This will be 2 by 3 of MP. So put this 2 by 3 of MP. So you'll get a relation between L minus X and 2 by 3L. So X is L by 3. So the length of the plastic hinge for a rectangular section having concentrated load at the center will be X. L by 3. So this length will be consisting of L by 3. So the plastic hinge will be at 1/3, at the middle third. If you divide the beam into 3 equal parts, the middle third, center third part will be the part where plastic hinge will be fully developed because of development of plastic moment. Okay, so this is how it is done. So the next class we'll discuss about your shape factor and all other things, how to calculate shape factor in beams, okay, different kind of section, and the load factor mechanisms. Okay, what are the mechanisms of plastic analysis? We'll discuss all those things. Thank you.